Next up, Earl Mann. Mr. Mann. He's been here before. You know Earl. Boots to boardroom. Earl is a seasoned entrepreneur. He was enlisted in the Navy, but you were a Marine officer?
Oh.
Boy, okay, you've been busy. Well, thank you for your service, Earl. Earl, if you'd like to tell everyone about yourself for a second, then I'll get you all set up. Sure. Earl Mann, everybody.
Hello. So I'm Earl Mann, and I'm going to try in the next 20 minutes or so to share some of the things I found to be valuable from my experience in the military that I think translated into success in corporate America. Largely, this is a talk I'm going to pull bits and pieces from things I talk about often, and I loosely put them in a bucket called Beyond Talent because it's the things I think you can use on top of your innate skill set. And a lot of it's going to be perspective and things like that, but those are the things I actually think matter the most. So, about me, this is me when I was young. The world was big and full of magic. Now I'm a little bit bigger, the world is smaller, but somehow still full of magic. So that part of it is pretty good. I grew up in South Carolina, little small town, ended up enlisted in the Navy. For a while, the Navy sent me to school, got a commission, went back in the Marine Corps officer, got out as a Marine Corps officer, went in to try to take corporate America by storm, did a pretty decent job of that. Ended up in my first startup back in 1999, which was a startup around machine learning, AI, that stuff, way back then, believe it or not. That company did well, got bought. I then went into a company that we were working with. They were using our technology. And then that company got bought. That company was ADP. They bought that second company I was in. And then I branched out on my own and started to just really mix it up in different areas and markets, just trying to look for areas to innovate, look for opportunity. So I've pretty much been a startup guy for 30 years or so. I'm 30 years or so on the business side of technology. My degree, my formal degree is in psychology. So I have a software company in Seattle. We do cloud engineering, data migration, that kind of stuff. And then I have an AI labs on the East Coast where we build private AI models to drive business systems and agentic platforms, that stuff. I'm going to talk to you what my goal today is to try to give you some insight into how a guy from a small town in South Carolina with a degree in psychology can now have multiple software ventures and have clients like Microsoft, MasterCard, Verizon, those type of companies. So, all right. So the story was told, I don't know if it's true or not, but it rang true enough for me to remember it and use it. They said that a long time ago back during the Olympics, people used to jump the high jump. People used to jump over the bar front ways. Just hop over the bar and try to hop over the bar. And then one day, as the story was told, the high jumper a gymnast was watching them. And the gymnast said that, hey, you know, when I do flips, right, I seem to get higher off the ground. Long story short, that little bit of insight, which is a takeaway from that story, that outside perspective completely changed that game. Not only did it change the game, but it changed what was physically possible because we now know we jump much higher this way than we could ever jump the way we started off jumping. I took that lesson to heart. Outside perspective is a lot. One of the takeaways I'm going to try to get you to adopt or consider using is that each and every one of you has unique perspective, right? And your ability to apply that unique perspective in areas that you don't come from is outside perspective. So for all you know, you could be the gymnast that sits next to the high jumper telling them what you see differently that completely changes everything. I'm going to talk a little bit about perspective. I don't know if this is going to work on the big screen, but if I drew it on a napkin, it would definitely work. But if you stare at that square, or whichever square you can see, if you were to keep just looking at that square, within 20, 30 seconds or so, the square's going to start to change perspective. The back's going to become the front's going to become the back going to become the front, and it's just not going to stop doing that. Some of you, it might be happening to already. You literally see the change square. Here's the interesting thing. There is no square. You're looking at cross lines on a single plane. There's no box. There's no space. So to Dr. Parker's point about having complicated conversations, imagine two people now arguing over which is the front of the square. There is no square, but yet you're having this serious conversation. I'm going to talk a lot about perspective because perspective drives the meaning we give things. Some might say you see faces, some might say I see a vase, right? It depends. It may matter in life. Imagine you have a job where somebody's coming to you and they're mad at you because they say, why didn't you do A, B, and C? You know you're supposed to do A, B, and C when the faces show up. And you're looking at them like, well, yeah, but you didn't tell me what to do when the vase showed up. Right? Same picture. What drives our meaning means that because we can have different meanings looking at the same thing, there is the possibility that we both can be right. We both can literally be right, and we both can be saying completely different things and yet still be technically right. Right? Understanding that these perspective changes, things we can see from different angles, we can literally see different things. This is a graphical presentation of what I call the outside perspective. The outside perspective means your perspective outside of the view or perspective of the other person. And sometimes it's just situational. Where you come from, where you stand determines what you see, right? All right. Perspective, before we move on. Outside perspective. I'm going to give you these big key takeaways, and I hope that you just somehow find a way to use them in your personal life strategy. So first thing to take away before we move to the second, perspective matters. Right? Two things can be right. Two things can look completely different to two people but be the same thing. Y'all got that takeaway? Next takeaway, change. The next takeaway of change. I like to use frogs when I talk about change because I like to talk about how change is actually the engine of survival in nature. The example I like to give, two frogs in a pond. Two frogs in a pond will eventually make little baby tadpoles, right? You know what gives them one of the biggest chance for survival? Is that every time two frogs get together and make little tadpoles, they mix up their genes. That gene variation, the change in their genes, gives them a greater chance of survival. You know why? Because the composition of the pond is constantly changing, especially if it's around man. If a pond is around man, you're getting all the fallout and the chemical stuff, and the water's changing, the clouds are changing, and the chemical composition of that pond is constantly changing. Imagine that didn't happen, that two frogs just make clone after clone after clone after clone. Just a matter of time before there's something in the pond deadly to the frogs. Right? Everybody follow that? So change. A lot of people, anybody ever hear that people don't like change? We avoid change? We say that all the time. In fact, but we do the opposite all the time. Everybody came here today. Nobody got in their car and came to this event today because they did not want to change the people they do. They did not want to change the information they knew. They did not want to be in a different environment. You came for a change. Once you got here, nobody went over there nobody went to get food because they did not want to change their level of hunger. We go from change to change to change to change to change to change to change. My point is, once you realize that change is fundamental to survival, you can change the way you look at change. And once you realize that change is inevitable, change becomes your friend. And if you can embrace change, you start to separate yourself from the rest of the pack, even though you're just dealing in reality. If you become the person that is friendly to change, open to change, welcome change, oh, everything is about to change, oh, that's great, right? If you become that person, you literally stick out as an asset, even though you're literally only working in reality, because everything around you is, in fact, changing. Next takeaway, change. Everybody good on change? So now we're going to talk about the difference between growth and change. A lot of time, growth is incremental, and I'm giving you my definitions, right? So I'm not giving you universal definitions. I'm giving you my definitions for sake of easy conversation. Growth is just the incremental growth of one thing. It may modify and look different and appear different along the way, but it never stops being what it already was. Example, oak tree, acorn. You plant an acorn grows into a little baby tree, pops up through the ground. For the next 100 years, it continues to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, but it never stops being a tree. Might have more branches, it's still a tree. That's incremental growth. Transformation is not that. Transformation is you start at one thing and you end up at something else. Most common metaphor for that, butterfly, right? So they are related, but they are not the same thing. They are related, but they are not the same thing. In fact, some things, I would argue, the reason why we started on perspective, the way you look at things, things change, that whole thing we started with, the fastest place you can transform is in your viewpoint, in your perspective. The minute you transform your viewpoint, the minute you transform your perspective, you can now incrementally grow as something else, if that makes sense. If that makes sense to you. So there's a difference between incremental growth, there's a difference between growth and transformation. Understand them both and ask yourself, in what areas am I growing, and in what areas do I need to transform? Transform means start anew, start from a different perspective. Got it? With me? Okay. I like feedback, by the way. Makes me, oh, there we go. That's all I need, just a little bit. All right. All right, next thing you know, just like we contrasted growth and transformation, we're going to talk about the difference between two other things that are similar but not the same. Motivation and inspiration, right? Coming from the military, we are literally taught to be motivated. It's not an innate thing. We're taught to be motivated. You know, if you, and you can say, well, you act motivated. Well, if you act motivated 24/7, every day, every week, every month, for every year, guess what you have been for the last year? You have been what you acted as, motivated, right? So I often say a lot on motivation. Here's my little take on motivation. Being from a guy who was led by officers and being as a guy who led Marines. We are very much aware over the mechanics, the science, the know-how and the whys and the benefits of motivation. We live and breathe it. That is in our blood, especially as Marines. In all branches, but Marines are different. So if you want to know the secret to being motivating, how many people, leaders out there in your company right now? Or your venture, or your organization, or your family, or something? All right, so you want to know the secret to being motivating? Be more motivated. The more you commit to something, the more they see, they being anybody observing, family, friend, business, partners, whatever, doesn't matter. The more you are committed, the more you are willing to do for this thing that you believe in, you know what they perceive that as? Motivated. And you know what that's how they take it in. The effect of you being motivated is that you become motivating. Now, this is how it's related to inspiration. If you are innately motivated by something, we're going to call that inspiration. We're going to call inspiration being the thing that excites you, moves you, captures your imagination, the thing that makes you feel different, mostly better, right? Without an outside influence. We're going to call that inspiration. I'm inspired to do these things. I was inspired. I was inspired to go blah, 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 blah. The good thing about the relationship here is when you're inspired, motivation shows up. If you find something that inspires you, you will not have a need to be motivated. And if you are motivated to the people around you, you will be, I love this. This is great. All right, we're moving through this good. The next big area of stuff you got to deal with. You got to learn this. I talk about this more than anything else. I disguise how I talk about it, use different language and different metaphors, but I'm talking about the same thing, which is our relationship to fear. We call fear a lot of different things. We call it nervousness, uneasiness. We use those kind of words to soften it down, but it's fear at the end of the day. It's things we're just afraid of. You know, I don't have time to really go do that whole career change. No, you're afraid that you might not make it. I don't want to stand in front of all those people because I don't have the blah. No. There's a fear there. It's just fear. So let's talk about fear. Fear is, although it usually drives people to avoid that thing, whatever it is, unfortunately, most of the things that we call of value, and by we I mean you, that's all an individual thing, but most of the things of value sit on the other side of something you call fear. That's the first big takeaway. That's like the first, hi, I'm Earl Mann and I'm out. You know how they start those meetings where you have to identify who you are and what your problem might be? This is step number one, which is identifying that there is a fear there and stop using that soft escapative excuse language that everybody uses because they don't want to call fear fear because it makes them seem less. They're not less. Everybody has fear. The person that's willing to stand up in front of you and tell you that they're not afraid of anything, they're afraid of you knowing that they are afraid of something. There is no absence of fear. Back to the lady that gave the analogy of the lion trying to eat us or whatever. Fear is mandatory. Fear and failure. Fear is just a way we talk about, failure is a way we define of action through the paradigm of fear, right? And that's through how we think people perceive us, right? When actually failure is the number one thing, first thing you have to do to learn, right? So fear, you have to realize that something you need and or want is on the other side of something uncomfortable. So your ability to make peace with being uncomfortable is critical. One takeaway I'm going to give you, and I'm going to move on, but I did a video just last week. I called it How to Tame Your Dragon. Dragon being fear and all these things. You know what the first step in taming your dragon, everybody, when I say dragon, I'm talking about fear in your watered down language, but I'm talking about a fear. The first thing you do to tame a dragon, stand in the presence of the dragon. You just got to stand there. You got to go up to it, get close enough so you feel the fear, and you just got to not move back. You just got to be in the presence, because you know what happens? Your body is such an amazing thing. Your mind is such an amazing thing. You know what? It forgets you're afraid. At some point, you become less fearful of the thing. And you know what you do when you get less fearful of the thing? You get closer to the thing. And in my fear the dragon thing, soon you're going to touch it, but that's a whole nother talk on a whole nother day. So understand that I say your relationship to fear is directly proportionate to your quality of life. All right. So given the state, the way things change and all the stuff I talked about a lot of inside stuff, right? I talked about perspective and perception and fear, right? These are all things that happen inside of us, outside of our skill set, outside of our jobs. Like if you wanted to know like an oversimplified magic bullet to happiness, right? Big, bold movie poster, right? What you want to try to do is take the inside stuff, which is those things. Remember inspiration? Remember what how powerful inspiration is? Upstream from motivation? Remember that? Okay, so if you can connect your heart, let's just call our heart those things that inspire us, our passion, those things that we like for whatever reason we like them, those things that trap our imagination and won't let them go, those things that hold our dreams hostage. Those are your inspiration. Let's call that heart. And let's call brain your logical decision making. I'm going to do this, A, B, C, and then I'm going to move 1, 2, 3. Your goal should be to try to get those in sync, get those in alignment. The most powerful people, in my opinion, that walk through whatever their walk of life is, whether it be business, civic activity, whatever, the people that most closely are aligned with their thoughts and their feelings on the inside to the way they think and what their plans are to do with life, unstoppable. Unstoppable. When I was graduating college about 100 years ago, the president of my college basically said, I forgot who the person was. I think it was Gandhi, maybe. I don't know who it was, but it was somebody like that. And he said, this person can speak for hours and hours and hours and hours and never repeat themselves because what they thought, what they felt, and what they said were in coherence. Most people feel one thing, think another thing, and say yet a third thing. Everybody with me? Good. Okay. I hope some of these things are useful. One thing that I'm doing now, I'm launching a platform largely designed to build advocacy for people, job seekers and advocacy, but it's turning into something else already. Let me tell you what it does. You can play with it, it's free, but let me tell you what it does. I call it Project 10. Project 10 builds you a digital talent agent. Right? Here's what it does. You go into Project 10, you pick a category or a subject matter. If you're Richard, you can say, I'm an aircraft maintainer, and I work on these airplanes, and blah, blah, blah. The more specific, the better. If you're Ross, I'm an expert in epistemology, I think it is, Ross. There we go. That complicated. If you're doctor, you can say whatever you want. I'm a programmer, I'm an engineer, I'm a software developer. Here's the thing, the more precise you are, the better. So there's a difference between saying, I'll use technology because it's easy examples. There's a difference between saying, I'm a Python programmer, I'm a computer programmer. That's one thing, that'll work. Or you could say, I'm a computer program that works on customer service applications specifically for banks. Two totally different things. So what happens is, Project 10, once you create a category, it's going to go through a little Q&A with you, just asking you some questions. It's designed to do knowledge extraction. The minute you tell it what it is you're an expert in, it understands what that is. We're using multiple models on the back end and the large language and general knowledge to understand what area you're interested in, but we do very specific knowledge capture, specifically from you. So it captures all of your knowledge, right? Understands your perspective and experience in this category that you created. You can go back and create multiple categories, multiple niches, so you don't have to worry trying to do the catch-all. Do the opposite of that. Do a narrow one and do another narrow one and just keep doing it if you think it's fun. At the end of that, it creates a digital agent. The digital agent is just a link you can send out. That agent can now speak on your behalf. So when it asks you specific questions, hey, Python programmer, have you ever worked in banks? Yes, I worked in banks for 10 years. I worked in this project. It knows all the stuff it extracted, right? That's one thing it does. The other thing it does, we build a talent archetype. A talent archetype is, it asks you non-skills related questions, and then it uses a lot of behavioral psychology models in the background to help determine what your talent archetype is. What a talent archetype is kind of like, if you ever taken like a personality test, it's not a personality test. It looks a little bit like one, but what it more is how your personality shows up in a situation. So for example, my personality archetype is a synergistic navigator, right? And it explains what that is. And then it tells me what my natural strengths are, right? And it says things like strategic foresight, adaptive resilience, visionary leadership, transformation, problem solving. These are things that I think I'm pretty adept at. It will also tell you the types of environments that you will naturally thrive in. So mine are innovative startups, cross-functional teams, dynamic event planning, strategic advisory roles. That's dead center bullseye for what I do. So this is something you can play with. For the younger people out there, or people trying to make transitional change, we have a motivational pathway. It just asks you enough questions that the math behind the scenes can kind of tell you, hey, this is what you're kind of really motivated to do. And a lot of times just seeing what you already know is clarity. We had one young woman realize that what she was really trying to find, she was really motivated by companies with a social cause. So she ended up realizing she should be looking for nonprofits in the area that she was interested in, because it just made it obvious what she wanted to do. My daughter even played with it and said she's in an animal hospital, working in an animal hospital and vets and that stuff. And she suddenly realized after going through all this stuff, she's kind of really interested in treating people, and she might be interested in like being an EMT. She said, I just never really thought about it till I kind of saw it, right? So that's Project 10. You're free to play with it. It doesn't cost anything. Just go through it, set it up, play with it, have fun. Share it if you find it useful. Share feedback if you want to. It's all good. So my takeaway is that my super summary oversimplification of these deep, complicated, beautiful things I was talking about in its most simplest terms is we're in the pond. I'm gonna touch on the things, right? We're all in our pond, right? Our pond is changing. So to survive it, by survive I mean thrive in it, to be the one that thrives in your pond, you can't control the pond changing, but you need to brace you changing. Now, you know that's supported biology. We just talked about it, right? So you need to now adopt this mindset and or practice of constant change, right? You can call it growth, you could call it learning, but change is what it is. Because what you're doing is you're changing the odds, because everything around you is changing. AI is changing jobs faster than you can blink. Economies are changing. Everything's changing. But you can change too, and your rate of change can be faster than the rate of change, right? And remember the power of perspective, outside perspective. One, there's value in it. In some moments, you might be the guy trying to jump over the pole the old way, and you might need the outside perspective to turn around and do it what seems to be crazy, but backwards and upside down, and that might work better for you. Or you might be the person sitting there watching people just bump their head up against the wall over and over and over, and you might be the person that gives them that valuable piece of information that completely changes what they do. Remember that because perspective can be unique, literally from where you stand, you just got to constantly remember that although you having that critical conversation, that both of you might actually be right. Just remember that. I'm not saying that's true, but I'm just saying the possibility, there is a possibility that, you know what, both of us just might be right. So let me back off trying to prove that I'm right, and just give it a chance, right? And you might, and then both of you might shift. And when both of you shift, both of your perspective changes. It's just physics. It's just physics, right? So now that you understand these things, you understand that if you can change perspective, you can be outside perspective and you can gain from outside perspective. If you know that you can gain from outside perspective in life-changing ways, are you more open-minded or closed-minded to any and everybody? Open-minded. Exactly, right? So all of that good golden rule stuff starts to percolate through the top of the pile. Imagine that. When there's a real physics-based, practical reason why I need to be open-minded to this person that seems to be against me in every single way possible. It might just be. It might be that beneath all of that stuff I don't like might be that one little, holy crap, I never thought about it that way. Right? Everybody get that? All right. So that is my take. If you want to, I hope you got the Project 10 thing. If not, just find me yours. I don't know how to go back. How do you go back?
Broke it.
I broke it.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So yeah, or I spell it like that, and it's .com, right? So if you find there, play with it. Hopefully, just find a way. Here's my thing: find a way to use it as a tool, right? I have salespeople and consultants when they went through the process and they saw the talent agent. You know what they use it as? Their sales agent, because it understands their program and their approach to their program, and they just send us a link saying, "Hey, this is my agent that understands kind of my approach to this. Ask any questions to that, and then if you need to follow me through that, because I was working for you 24/7, right? Change, right? I'm in a pond too. This time next year, Project 10 might be something evolved into something even different, right? I'm open-minded to that, right? So might be your outside perspective that makes me change everything. I don't know that, but I'm open to it, right? So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. Earl is probably one of the people that most lives what he speaks. So you probably sense it with his energy. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay.